Hi, I'm Chris Hardwick from Things, and you're listening to the Geek Speak Show.
You are listening to the Geek Speak Show. So going on, just heard from the two big stars of that big movie that's coming out this weekend, Thor and Loki. You guys may know them as Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston. So that's happening this Friday. After that, and after all the excitement we had last week at Halloween and everything, it's time to sit down. And some places it might even be a little bit cold, might even be raining. Sit down, turn on your computer, and enjoy a really good web series. A lot of them are pretty difficult to find. We've had a few on the show over the years. Now, there's one place where it's all easy to find them. They're all right there. It's called The Seventh Matrix, your portal to worlds fantastic, and they really are. The founder is on with us, Rod. Rod, welcome to the Geek Speak Show.
Oh, thanks a lot for having me.
Thanks for coming on. So I was going to explain exactly what it is, but I'll have you do that since it's your creation. But add to that, when and where did the idea for The Seventh Matrix pop into your head?
Okay, certainly. Let me start with the second part of your question. Like most of us, whenever we find something that we love, whether it be a movie, music, a television series, we usually share it if we enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And I was talking with a friend of mine. This was the first part of this year about a web series that I had stumbled upon. And he said, Rod, you know what? You need to start a website. And I thought, that's a good idea. And so that's where the genesis for the Seventh Matrix began. And I launched it in April of this year. And essentially, the Seventh Matrix, I wanted to be what I call a discovery source for fans of science fiction, where they can go and find very, very good, very well-produced web series and short films for the web. And that's our mission.
Yeah, and again, you guys can get it on our link section. It's up on there, or you can go to directly the Seventh Matrix, the number 7 thmatrix.com, and you don't produce the web series. You just go out and find them, correct?
Exactly. Think of the site as a curation site, essentially for science fiction short films and web series. So I go out and I scour the internet and I find these projects, and if I enjoy them and I think that they would benefit from a larger audience, then I feature them on the site.
That actually goes right into the question I was about to ask you, and that is, how do you go about finding them? Is it just through searches, or how do you go about finding the web series?
I tell you what, the better question would be, what do I not do? Anything from Google alerts with certain keywords to I've met a lot of fantastic people online, other filmmakers, other geeks like myself who recommend projects. And then on occasion, there will be web series creators who will submit their project to me via the website. They'll say, hey, listen, we have a project coming up. We think that you'll dig it. Will you check it out and tell us what you think?
Now, I found it from, I'm assuming now, I guess that was from your launch point, but to me, they all look very sci-fi, very genre specific. But is there something that you specifically look for to include in the Seventh Matrix?
Yes, it has to be primarily genre entertainment. So what I mean by genre is sci-fi, fantasy. I'm not a big horror fan, but I will include horror if I think the project warrants it, if it's well-produced and has an interesting idea, and fantasy. So if any of those projects fall within those categories, then I will consider them to be featured on the Seventh Matrix.
Now, is there any kind of series that you wouldn't include in the Seventh Matrix, whether it be for content or anything like that?
Right. Well, web series, I think, still has a stigma attached to it as far as being not well produced with amateurish acting and effects. So when I watch a web series, I do know that a lot of them are produced by filmmakers who are independent. They don't have the resources of a broadcast project.
Right.
But it needs to look as if the people know what they're doing, that they're competent, that it has capable acting. The special effects don't have to be top-notch, but it does have to look halfway decent. And so, unfortunately, there's still a lot of projects that are out there that don't meet that criteria. And then, above all, the story has to be something that I think is compelling.
Now, if somebody wants to submit their web series, how would they get a hold of you?
Oh, easily. They can go to the7thmatrix.com, and there's a contact form. They can submit their project and get in touch with me that way, or I'm very active on Twitter, and my Twitter handle is The Seventh Matrix. They can get in touch with me there.
Yeah, and I'm actually one of your followers also. Now, when they do contact you to submit a web series, do you just rather have them give you a link, or how would you what do you want to see from them?
I prefer for them to give me a link to where I can find their content. And when I get in touch with them, I try to respond as quickly as possible, usually within 48 hours. But I do tell them that, of course, I always appreciate anytime someone will submit their hard work to me for me to review, but that it's not a guarantee that it'll be featured. And I always will get back to the individual to tell them if I am going to feature them on the site.
Yeah, see, that I like. I mean, in my industry and in broadcasting, I do get a lot of the opposite of that, where we send out resumes and we never hear back from them. At least it's nice to know that either yes or no, but it's at least nice to know.
Right, I try to do that because I know that they have taken their time to get in touch with me, and I respect that.
Yeah, now, I know we have a lot of web series, and you don't want to single one out over the other, but over the months, have some of them really stood out to you, or what have been some of your favorites featured on The Seventh Matrix?
Oh, there have been, I'm going to go ahead and mention two that stand out, but there have been a host of them. One is a web series called Still. And by the way, you can find out of these projects on The Seventh Matrix, and I have an index for them. But one project that came to my attention a couple of weeks ago is still new. It's called Still, Still. And it is a fantastic horror sci-fi web series, and I don't want to give anything away, but essentially it is about a city that is dealing with an extraterrestrial virus that is infecting the populace. And I can tell you it is fantastic. Yeah,
that one actually stood out to me too. I've been following that one too, and I'm glad you mentioned that one.
Now, another web series is called Wastelander Panda. That's the title. And it's from Australia. And actually it is a product of two women, a writer and a director. And it's set in a post-apocalyptic world, but the protagonist of the web series is a walking, talking panda. And I know it sounds crazy, but it is terrific. So again, it's called Wastelander Panda.
This is live action? Because it sounds like it would be an animated show.
It's live action, and it looks great.
See, now this I got to see. So
yeah, it looks something like Mad Max, and the way that they've done the panda makeup and the costume design, it's amazing. So I highly recommend everyone to check them out.
So you can find all of those on the7thmatrix.com, the number 7thmatrix.com. Talking to Rod, he's the founder of the 7th Matrix. Your portal to worlds fantastic. You can go to our guest link section. It's all on there for you. Rod doesn't produce these things, but he probably could if he wanted to. He is, to quote from the Sandman, he is one of us. He is an actual geek. So Rod, let's talk about you a little bit. What were some of your favorite sci-fi offerings growing up, whether it's TV, movies, books, whatever it was?
Great. Well, I can tell you one of my earliest geek memories is as a child, and I'm a little bit older. I'm in my mid-40s. But I remember watching the original Star Trek in reruns, and I saw Nichelle Nichols, who played Lieutenant Uhura. And you have to realize back at that time, it was very unusual for people of color to have television roles that weren't, either they were a menial or a domestic. And to see a black woman on a starship as the communications officer, man, that blew my mind. Mm-hmm. I had never seen anything like that before. So really, that kind of ignited my love of science fiction. And I enjoyed, what didn't I enjoy? Star Trek, Star Wars. I also watched a lot of sci-fi on television, like The Bionic Man, Wonder Woman, Bionic Woman, Battlestar Galactica, the original. So, yeah, I've been a lifelong fan of the genre.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, we're the same age, so I grew up watching all of that also. Now, a lot of people today, a lot of kids especially today, with the new Battlestar Galactica and all the things that we have today, they like Grimm and Lost and you look back at those shows, and yeah, they're considered classics now, but I'm glad you mentioned that. They're really not considered sci-fi, but they were. I mean, Buck Rogers, obviously, is sci-fi. But here's something that I really wanted to talk to you about is not those shows that you and I grew up with, but today's sci-fi. Like I'm thinking specifically like the movie Oblivion and Elysium that came out this year, and most of today's sci-fi. Is sci-fi still sci-fi? Because to me, it's starting to seem like you just put it in space and that makes it sci-fi, but that's not what sci-fi is about, is it?
I think the best science fiction, and this is just my personal opinion, is science fiction that only entertains, but that it tells a story that kind of holds a mirror up to current issues that we're dealing with in society right now. Like Star Trek was famous for that, the original series. It gives you something to think about. Now, sure, you can have science fiction that's purely popcorn, that's action, explosions, and all that, but the best sci-fi also has, for me, a message to it. And also, too, I think that it doesn't have to be post-apocalyptic. I think that's the current trend, is to have dark and grim and gritty visions of the future, and we do need that, and there's room for it. But I'm ready to see a more utopian vision of the future, because I think you can still tell creative stories that way, using that lens, and I miss that.
Yeah, I think you and I, because we grew up with it, and he's a good friend of the show, Rod Roddenberry, but the Roddenberry philosophy, Gene Roddenberry's philosophy, is that we get to wherever we're going to get together. Right, that there's some hope. And, this may be controversial, but I love the remake of Battlestar Galactica, but towards the end, it really became oppressively dark to me. Yeah.
And I would just like to see a series, maybe even a new Star Trek series, where you have more optimism that's at the forefront, that even though we're imperfect and we're still stumbling, trying to find our way, that there is faith in humanity that will make it.
Yeah, that actually leads to this. Let me ask you, what did you think of the reboot, the JJ's new Star Trek?
I liked it. I liked the first movie. I have not seen Into Darkness yet, but I've heard mixed reviews. So I need to see it so I can make up my own mind. But it seems to be people either they liked it or they didn't, either extreme. So I haven't seen it yet, but I enjoyed what they did in the first one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to give anything away. I've talked to death about it on the show. I'll just say that I wasn't happy with Into Darkness at all. It's a great movie, but the plot and everything, I'm not happy with it. I'll just say it was lazy writing to me because of who was involved. That's all I'm going to say. When you do get a chance to see it, send me an email. We'll talk again, and I'd really be interested in what you think of Into Darkness.
Oh, most definitely. I do think that, from what I understand, it's a retelling of Star Trek II. And I don't know why they wanted to go remine that, where there's so many other directions they could have gone.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, have you avoided not knowing the big spoiler this far?
Yeah, that doesn't bother me at all. I think it's been discussed a lot online and amongst my friends, but I do think that was a wasted opportunity, because with the first reboot, they kind of wiped the slate clean. So they could have gone in any direction, and they still can, but I hate that they decided to make the sequel a rehash.
Yeah. See, I was going to tread lightly, but since you already know, then I'll go ahead and tell you the whole thing. And sure. Like I said, again, I didn't hate the movie. It's a great movie, fun, exciting. The effects are great and everything. The acting's great. But, and then actually and when you watch it, you'll see what I mean. It starts off fine. You can't even tell. I mean, it's a Star Trek movie, but you can't tell where they're going to go, that it's going to rehash Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. Until that reveal, from that point on, it's like The Wrath of Khan. You took the lines and you just assigned it to different characters. Now, the thing with that is, it doesn't make sense, because in Star Trek II, there was a reason for everything that happened in the movie. There's a reason why that movie is considered the Empire Strikes Back of the Star Trek franchise. And
it really is. The
biggest theme is, at that point, the original cast, they were getting old, and the movie was about that. It was not Gene Roddenberry. Nicholas Meyer's been on, and he said that it was originally going to be called The Undiscovered Country, referring to death, because this is the first time that Kirk especially had to deal with it. Now, in this one, the new one, they do all of that, but they've only been together for one movie. They don't have those connections yet where, if one character dies, well, okay, plus it's Kirk and Spock that this happens to. Kirk and Spock, especially in Into Darkness in the beginning, and in the first one, they're not the best of friends like they were with the Shad and Leonard Nimoy. So that's why it didn't work. But that's a whole. Again, I've talked this to death on the show. I'm not going to get into it again.
Well, Henry, I will say this: a friend of mine that did see the movie, and we talked about it. He said he made the exact same point you just did. That he felt that that moment in Into Darkness wasn't earned like it was in the original movie.
Exactly.
Because Kirk and Spock don't have the same, they haven't known each other for the same length of time. They haven't made that connection yet. And I think he probably has a good point.
Yeah. Again, when you do finally get to see it, and I can't believe you actually haven't seen it, and I was wondering how you stayed away from the spoiler, but obviously you do know it.
Right,
but
I do. Some spoilers I don't care about, but in running the site, you'll be amazed. And doing research for it, it really takes up a lot of time. So a lot of big movies I've missed that I have to catch up on.
Yeah, it's not like when you and I were growing up, we had Starlog magazine, but it wasn't instantaneous like Twitter and Facebook are today.
Exactly. It's a whole different world now.
Yeah, so he's Rod. He's the founder of the Seventh Matrix, your portal to the world's fantastic, seventhmatrix.com. The number 7, don't forget that, thmatrix.com. Or easy for you, just go to our link section. It's all on there for you. Rod, thanks for coming on. And like I said, you're welcome back anytime. We'll definitely talk about all this stuff.
Thanks for having me. I've really enjoyed it.